Father?
We've been shopping. I got to put this up in the car. Want to come?
Yeah, sure.
Well, Pidge.
Oh, hi, Sheriff Todd.
What's the matter, my boy?
I'm really depressed because I want to buy this really neat gun, but Mom won't let me have guns because she says Dad was killed in the war.
Well, Pidge, I think you ought to buy the gun anyway and shoot the guy that wants to kill the president and save the country.
Golly, Sheriff Todd, you're really wise.
Of course.
And tall. That terrible parody you just saw was from a movie called Suddenly, starring Frank Sinatra and Sterling Hayden, and filmed right here in the streets of Newhall. Hello, my name is Philip Scorza, and I would like to welcome you to our program, Points of Interest. We're standing in front of the American Movie Theater here on Spruce Street. And what we're going to do today is take you on a tour of old Newhall, show you some of the charming old buildings that are a part of this area's rich heritage. And to take us on that tour and to tell us the story of those buildings is Mr. Jerry Reynolds, curator of the Santa Clarita Valley Historical Society. Hello, Sheriff Todd.
Hello there, Pidge. How you doing? Did you ever shoot that assassin?
I did. And I saved the day,
the parody
too.
was better than the movie, you know.
Tell me about the American Movie Theater. When was it built?
It was built in 1940, of course, by William S. Hart, the great Western movie star. And for a great number of years, it was the only motion picture theater in town. What with the patriotic fervor that was going across the country at this time as World War II was breaking out, the name was changed from Tumbleweed, which was one of the names of William S. Hart's movies, right, to the American, and it was donated to the American Legion. And of course, they've operated it until like the 1960s, and is now their lodge and hall and all of that. So,
well, Jerry, today what we're going to do is we're going to go around. This Newhall redevelopment's going on right now, and so we thought it would be a good idea to take people around and show them what few remaining buildings are left from the, I guess, the 30s, the 40s, et cetera, right?
Okay, let's go on down the road.
Let's go, come on.
Mom wouldn't let me have it. She doesn't like guns.
I know.
It's because of my father being killed in the war.
Look, Pidge, if you had the gun, what would you do with it? Stick up a filling station?
Stick up a filling station? Heck no. I'd be sheriff. And I'd catch all those road agents and cattle rustlers, just like you.
Well, Jerry, this is the oldest jail in Newhall, but it wasn't the first one. Is that right?
No, it wasn't. It replaced the first one and served the community until 1926. In those early days, we had a justice of the peace out here, and we had constables that enforced the law, and this was actually the constables' headquarters. And
well, they did keep prisoners here. It's certainly a sturdy-looking building with some great bars on it.
Sturdy, yes, indeed. In fact, the old original jail used to be the subject of all sorts of parodies and even not very nice cartoons in the L.A. Times. But anyway...
so this was a jail the community could be proud of.
Yes, indeed. And look at this beautiful Spanish mission style here. And all
and we're lucky to still have it, actually.
Oh, actually, yes.
Yeah.
And, of course...
this was replaced when?
This was replaced in 1926.
Okay.
When the sheriffs came in, we got real judge. And there was actually this... captain out here in those days was named Jeb Stewart, of all things. Okay. And he had 6 deputies, and they took care of the whole valley.
Oh, really?
I think there's around 150 or 160 deputies now.
Oh, yes,
right,
at least.
Right.
Well, the second jail, the next jail, the one they used from, what, 1926 on, still stands in the corner of San Fernando Road and 6th Street. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
We'll go down there and look at it, and
okay, let's do that.
See how things progress.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, take it easy, Pappy. 25-mile speed limit.
Where's the sheriff?
Try the office. Hey, what's the...
Well, here we are at the second jail, or third jail, as it were, but the second jail that we have standing here in Newhall, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, when was this used?
Yeah, this was built... Well, actually, as I mentioned before, the constables were taken over by the Sheriff's Department in 1926. And at that time, the Sheriff's Department leased this building from a guy named Albert Swall and did a little remodeling and installed the jail in there. The cells are still at the back of this building.
Okay.
And this was used up until the time when the Sheriff's Department moved out to the Valencia Civic Center. And then the Newhall Signal took it over. And the Newhall Newhall Signals, whose main office was right around the corner here on 6th Street. They operated it as their back shop, as they call it. They had their photo lab and everything else in here. So it was very convenient for them until they moved out to Automobile Row out there.
Oh, yes, out there,
where they are today. Newhall Signal and Saugus Enterprise.
And Saugus Enterprise,
right.
Well, now, 3 of the locations we're going to today were featured prominently in the movie Suddenly. And this happens to be one of them. This, of course, was the sheriff's office.
And it really was.
And it really was the sheriff's office at that time. And we have a number of shots showing Sterling Hayden both inside the building and pulling up to the front of the building. And the man comes in with the telegram, and he tells him, Sheriff, really important. You got to come down to the train station. You know, code red, or whatever it was. But there are a number of other places that they used in the movie that are no longer with us.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Such as the Presbyterian Church, which used to be on Newhall Avenue.
Right.
And that was taken down when?
That was in the 70s.
After the earthquake?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And
then one of the other places was the, I think in the movie they called it the M&N Groceries, which is today called the what?
Well, today, the grocery store, that was owned by a number of people, but that's Tres Sierras down here.
Tres Sierras Market,
yeah,
right?
down here on the corner.
Right.
And you can see it certainly, usually in the background of most of the street shots.
It still has the lines of the building
same,
in front of it.
But originally, that was the Safeway store.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I see. All right.
And,
one of the other places that they feature in the movie, and I don't know where this is at, maybe you can tell me about it, is something called Kaplan's Garage, and it's just a wonderful old-fashioned type of garage gas station.
Oh, yeah.
And do you know where that was? Or
Yeah, that was right down here, almost across the street in Caddy Corner on San Fernando Road.
Oh, really?
And, yeah.
Oh.
And that was...
San Fernando and what, Market? Or
yeah,
Lions?
well, just past, no, just past Market down there.
Okay.
And
okay.
that was owned by a number of people, including Jess Doty, who had the Pioneer Ford dealership here in the town.
Right, that's another thing they featured in the movie. They have a shot of the Ford dealership, which I think is right down the block here, too.
Yeah, well, the old Magic Ford was located out here.
Started here, then?
Yeah.
Before it moved to Auto Row, along with the Signal.
Along with out there.
Right. So, obviously, when they were taping this movie, all of these locations, which featured small-town America at the time, because that's what the movie's about, the President of the United States, the most important person in the world, is going to stop in our town. And who should show up with that arch criminal, Frank Sinatra, to assassinate the president, right? And they had the convenience of shooting here must have been great for them because everything's right here on San Fernando Road, basically.
Except the Saugus Station, you know.
Saugus Station.
That's 3 miles out.
Right. And the Ross House.
And the Ross House,
right.
which is up on the hill. There was,
which is up on the hill, right?
Yeah, one heck of a long shot for those guys from the old Ross House on 8th Street clear down to Saugus.
Right. Okay, well, the next place we're going to go to, since we're talking about law and order and justice, is the courthouse.
Yeah.
So let's take a walk over there. What do you say? Okay.
Round the bend down.
Round the bend here. All right, so you got arrested. They threw you in the hoosegow over here. No, first you had to come over here and be tried and presumably found guilty before they put you in the hoosegow over on 6th Street, right?
Well, actually, this was more like a holding tank on 6th Street.
Oh, okay.
You know, if you were really desperado, well, then downtown you went, you know. That's, but, yeah, there wasn't enough room in the little substation number 6 to keep people any length of time.
Okay.
So
when was the courthouse built, and how long did they use it?
Well, actually, it started as a Masonic lodge in 1932, and the Masons built it. And at the same time, the county court needed a courthouse out here, so they contracted with the Masons for part of the building. So the Masons part is actually the upstairs section you can see up there.
Right.
Well, down below, these were the courts. And the court building is very handy. It's a block away from the substation and everything.
Just shackle you and walk you right.
Yeah, walk you right down the street. And in those days, they probably did. Yeah, you know, I mean, there weren't any bleeding heart liberals in those days. You know, right? Absolutely. You know.
Okay. So they use it from what, the 20s into the 60s when they moved?
Until they moved up to the Valencia Civic Center. Same time the police department moved up to the Civic Center. That's when the courts moved up there also.
Well, you know, it's interesting to me because it sort of speaks of the fact that the core of our community was downtown Newhall. This was really the center.
This was it.
This was it.
This is where everything happened. And this was sort of the heart and soul of Newhall because the main businesses were right here on Railroad Avenue.
Right.
And
including a train station.
Including the train station.
Newhall train station.
Right across the street.
Right.
And so if you went shopping, you went up and down Railroad Avenue. It wasn't until actually about 1913 1914 when the actually one of the people, actually it was a person that had right here had a general store back in the 1890s, and the owner raised the rent on him. So he said, well, the heck with you. Yeah. So he moved over to San Fernando Road, right?
Which is called Spruce Street.
Which
then,
is
right?
now, yes. Then, anyway, his name was Albert Swall. He got together with Ed Pardee, who happened to be the town constable anyway, and they actually contracted with the state to run the state highway right down San Fernando Road.
And bypassing Railroad Avenue.
Bypassing Railroad Avenue.
Okay.
So these businesses very quickly died over here.
Right.
And so over there, of course, everything boomed. And I mean, it was, you know.
All because he was raising his rent.
All because he raised the rent. Yeah. And boy, were these guys sad over here. You know? Right.
Well, it's interesting because today we talk about redeveloping Newhall. And of course, Market and San Fernando Road, which was the center of town then, is going to be the center of our community again with a town square and all that sort of thing.
All of the redevelopment goes through, which would be nice to see, and see this town kind of reborn again. You know, for got to be
and hopefully save and restore what we used to have and what we've got now.
Yeah, right.
And now we presume, by looking over there, now we presume that you can actually go in there and rent the movie suddenly and watch Frank Sinatra.
I suppose you can check it out there, and anything else you may want to rent. You know, Debbie does Newhall, whatever.
Okay, well, what do you say we move on from here?
Okay,
let's go. Sounds like somebody lost their pipe. Laurene Weste, what are you doing here?
Hi, Phil.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm sorry. I'm delighted to see you. We're just running into each other. I came down to check out the area for the Old Town Square behind you.
Okay.
And the potential Gateway Tower.
Yeah, now Jerry and I were just talking about this a minute ago, and we were saying how there's going to be a redevelopment going on here. And why don't you tell us something about it?
Well, the community's been working for about a year on planning a revitalization for Old Newhall. And some of the plans have now been adopted: architectural design, Victorian, Western, and Spanish colonial, and the linkages into some of the other historic sites, turning our history into prosperity is the plan.
Hopefully, yeah.
I think
it's going to start down at, the railroad tracks down here, which would be south of us here.
Just south of us, near Hart Park.
Okay.
And then proceeding northward to Lyons Avenue.
Okay.
And it's the downtown corridor, the historic core of the Santa Clarita Valley.
Right, because Jerry and I have been walking around. You don't know this. We've been walking around looking at some of the old buildings, such as the old movie theater, the old jail, the second jail, the courthouse here, of course.
We had the old blacksmith shop across the street.
Right.
And the historic
Newhall pharmacy right over here.
At the pharmacy. And behind you is the coming, hopefully, multimodal transit Metrolink station that the city's currently
so Newhall will get its own train station.
Yes.
We'll be able to get on the train right here. What do you think, right over here?
Yes, right there at the corner of Market and Railroad Avenue.
Okay.
And
plenty of room for parking back over there, right?
Looks like that there is.
Yeah.
Other communities like Santa Barbara, they have that kind of facility right at the center of their core of Old Town. Right. And it looks like it's just a natural for Newhall.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how is it going to change the face of San Fernando Road here in this area of Market and San Fernando? What's going to go right on this intersection, for instance?
Well, after many meetings, the community has looking at the architectural theme of Spanish colonial, which the William S. Hart Mansion is the old Spanish colonial from the 1920s.
Right.
And then the Victorian period, which in Newhall, before the turn of the century, was kind of like the old San Franciscan architecture.
Right, because we know that there used to be the Southern Hotel stood right on the intersection of Market and San Fernando Road.
Just a block from us. Yeah. And it was a beautiful hotel, and it's kind of ironic that we're putting back a town square just almost at the same place. And I understand from some of the real old-time residents that they actually, when they were youngsters, were able to pick up the old, what they call the putt-putt train right here at the corner of Railroad and Market and go down to L.A., which was very small at that time.
Right.
So we're kind of replicating our historic core right back again.
Well, I'm really glad we could bump into each other like this. This is fortuitous, I think is the word.
This is the new place to hang out.
This is the new place to hang out, yes.
It's the new old place to hang out.
Yes. Well, someday maybe we can have a cappuccino right over in the
Right on
restaurant
the
over
corner.
there and walk down to the bookstore and all that sort of thing together.
I think we're all looking forward to that.
That'll be great, won't it?
Great.
Yeah. We're standing on the corner of 11th Street and Walnut in front of the Newhall Elementary School. This is the 4th elementary school. Is that right, Jerry?
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, the first school was built in 1880 down on Chestnut.
Is that still standing?
No, it burned down in 1890. So they
Did a student burn it down?
I'm not sure of this.
So the first elementary school burnt down in 1890. Then when did they build the second one?
In 1890 is when they built the
okay.
second one. I mean, they had no choice.
Lasted a little longer.
A little bit longer, a couple of years longer, right. So then they put the third one up on Lyons Avenue right down here.
So then how long did they use that one?
Well, they used that one up until when they built this.
I know this is the oldest elementary school, certainly the oldest existing one. We have close to 8 or 9 of them right now in Santa Clarita.
Well,
We've really grown.
This was it. In fact, in the old days, if you went to high school out here, you went over to San Fernando before William S. Hart High School was built after World War II. When the war broke out, Bermite had a big contract to supply munitions for the Army, but they couldn't get any workers out here. And nobody wanted to live in this godforsaken place. So what they did was they built a whole series of houses, such as the ones you see across the street in the 1940s, and rented them to people who'd come out here for $30 a month. And that was kind of a stimulus. So that's when a lot of these houses in this neighborhood came up, and these were rental homes from Bermite.
Now, you told me that part of the 3rd elementary school is still standing, right?
Yeah.
Where's that?
It's down there in back of Jimmy Dean's restaurant.
Well, what do you say we go take a look
We
at
can
it?
go take a look at that. Yeah, right.
So, Jerry, you were saying this is the part of the 3rd elementary school here?
Yeah, this is the center section of the 3rd elementary school. It was originally located on Lyons Avenue. After it was, the 4th elementary got going, they moved it over here, and they sold it to Rydell, who was the banker in town, and Arthur B. Perkins, who was a justice of the peace, also a local historian.
Oh, Perkins. I've heard of that name.
Yeah.
Right.
And so Perk and Rydell paid something like $3,000 for this place.
Oh.
And the school board was happy with it, but the whole community was in a big uproar. They said it was graft, corruption, The school board had given it away and all this. I mean, since one guy was a judge and the other was a banker, maybe they thought there was a little...
Well, $3,000, though, is a fair amount of money back in those years, wasn't it?
Yeah, early 20s when they moved it over here. Yeah, sure. So they cut it in half. Rydell got part and Perk got part.
Oh, so they split the house.
Yeah, they split it.
Okay.
And this is the part that the banker, Rydell, got. And Perkins moved his on down the road. Unfortunately, his burned later on. But this is the only remaining part of the actual 3rd elementary school in town, right?
Okay. So we're at the ice house. It's interesting because I saw an old movie recently, and ice was really a very important commodity.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the old days before they had electricity to refrigerate things, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And, you would send somebody out. If you didn't send somebody out, you would have a little ice truck. In the old days, it was coming in on an ice wagon.
Deliveries.
Right?
But I'm told that William S. Hart used to come down here and buy his own ice. Right?
Well, you had no choice. I mean, you either buy it here or go somewhere else.
I've seen the wooden ice box that he has up there, and he needed ice.
Oh, sure.
So.
And I'm sure they made deliveries to him. I'm sure he was a good customer.
Very good customer.
And, So.
And today it's still being used as an ice house. Obviously, as you can see people in the background picking up their bags of ice there.
Bags of ice. Of course, it's not as dependent. They didn't have ice makers in their refrigerators in those days.
No.
But, again, that's it. You either get a delivery or come down here and pick up what you needed.
Well, okay, we have one more place to stop, and that's our home of our historical society. What do you say we go over there?
Okay. We'll go see what's going on there.
Okay.
Okay.
Return fire!
Well, Okay, so the assassin is up in the Ross house. This is played by Frank Sinatra, and he's looking down, and couldn't it be 200 feet away is the Saugus Train Station. Of course, at that time, it was the train station for a town called Suddenly. And at 5 p.m. that afternoon, the President of the United States, who was, as we all remember, an avid golfer, the train was going to stop, and the President was going to get off, and the man had something, Frank Sinatra had something like 30 seconds to shoot the President, right?
Right.
And he kept looking. There were a lot of scenes filmed around the train station at that time, right?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I recall, some of the scenes in the background, there was a big old warehouse. There was a wonderful water tank that was there, right? The Historical Society couldn't save that, though, could they?
No, in fact, it was gone by the time we moved the train station.
Was it?
So, yeah.
Okay.
But that's what they used to call a tank town, you know, in the old days. They put these big water tanks up. It was a water tank for the trains.
Right.
That was Newhall and Saugus.
Right.
So everybody called them tank town. So this is a tank town.
So Newhall, or Suddenly, was a tank town.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What town is this?
Suddenly.
Suddenly what?
No, that's the name.
It's a funny name for a town.
Uh-huh. Hangover from the old days. That's the way things used to happen here. Suddenly.
I see.
Road agents, gamblers, gunfighters.
Well, I take it things have changed.
Uh-huh. Things happen so slow now, the town council is figuring to change the name to Gradually.
One of the interesting things that we forgot to mention at the very beginning of the movie, which we think was filmed outside the Hart Park here because of the big trees in the background, but they pan to a sign that Chamber of Commerce, Welcome to Suddenly. And underneath the sign, it says, gold discovered here in 1842 for the first time.
Yeah,
or
right,
something like
yeah.
that.
First gold in California.
First gold in
Right,
California,
yeah.
which, of course, is our rich heritage here,
Yes,
right?
indeed. It's a Newhall, not Suddenly.
Newhall,
right.
not Suddenly.
Absolutely, yes.
Well, Jerry, I would like to thank you for taking us around today and telling us the story of some of the few remaining buildings left here in downtown Newhall.
Yeah, well, I did once run into somebody who saw the movie being shot.
Oh,
And
you
if you
did?
want to know how they got that shot that looked like they were shooting from a hill down to the
Yes,
station,
yes.
they told me that across the street by the Saugus Cafe, which is still there, that's
Yes,
amazing,
yes.
they built this huge tower.
Really?
And they climbed up there and had their camera mounted up there, and they got all these shots of the cafe. So that's why it looks like a mountaintop.
That's why it looks so when they're in the Ross house looking down on the train station, that's the shot.
That's the shot they did, yeah, right.
Well, terrific.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Movie magic.
Movie magic. Well, thanks again for joining us here in Old Newhall.
Well, you're certainly welcome. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the florist for allowing us to come in there and take some shots of the old jail. And I'd like to thank George for allowing us to take some pictures of his house, which used to be the 3rd elementary school, right? And I'd like to thank you for watching. For Points of Interest, this is Philip Scorza. I'll see you again next time.